Good morning. This is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi. And this is an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And I want to talk today about something that came up on my Facebook feed yesterday, which is, it was my 10-year friendversary with Linda Tellington. But my original actual anniversary of knowing Linda Tellington came up in the fall. And for those who don't know, Linda Tellington is a world-renowned animal expert who pioneered body work for horses as a way to solve behavior problems based on insight she had from her Feldenkrais training. And that work spread to work with dogs in the 90s, and now we work with humans. And of course, the work with dogs led to work with small animals, cats, rabbits, guinea pigs, all creatures. And the work is really profound. Some of the work has literally saved the lives of many animals. Certainly it's led to a more comfortable life for many animals. And one of the things I love about the work is that it empowers people to be able to help their animals at times when they don't know what else they could be doing. So it educates people in a way that's really useful and accessible. For instance, our methods in T-Touch and Tellington work to get horses in trailers really saves a lot of the drama I've seen over my lifetime at horse shows. And our work with horses with colic can save a horse's life and has saved many horses' lives over the years. And often they are much better with the T-Touch work before the vet even arrives at the farm. So this is a huge skill for a horse person to have. And certainly with dogs, we've seen the same thing. The ear work helps with a lot of behavior issues, and our ways to teach dogs confidence with our methods of walking with them have really affected behavior and relationships people have with their dogs in a really positive way. So the work is profound and amazing and life-changing. And I met Linda thanks to my horse named Burgers, whose real name was Tenpenny Moonshine, and this story is in my book. For those who don't know, my book is up there, and that's Burgers on the cover. It's Dances of the Heart Connecting with Animals. It's on Amazon. Check it out. But I had this horse, and I had moved away from this area to Western Mass to take a job at a school, and I was the riding director there. And, I grew up in New Jersey. Everybody in New Jersey does hunters, and I grew up by the biggest rodeo in the East, so there was a lot of stock seat riding, reining, barrel racing. Nobody does this thing called eventing, which is a 3-day combination of jumping, cross-country, dressage, and stadium jumping. So when I moved up here, I couldn't really find anyone that could teach me the kind of riding I used to do that's so popular throughout the Mid-Atlantic and southern states. So I ended up with this instructor who was, for me at the time, extremely helpful. She had worked with Sally Swift, who developed centered riding. She had a lot of ideas about the balance of the person and how to impact that to affect the horse. She knew a lot about saddle fit. She knew a lot about feet. She knew a lot about bits and bridles. She had gone to a girls' school in Vermont where riding was the focus of the curriculum. So she was very helpful. However, and I don't think this is anything against her, the methods of training at the time for dogs and horses were very punitive. Really, punishment was a big thing. And people assumed, now we can't assume that animals have love and feelings of affection and things. But in those days, we assumed they were being belligerent and stupid on purpose because we were so dumb. And this is in the 80s. So one day, she was very frustrated with my horse and with me. And she was trying to teach him dressage, which I didn't know anything about. And she just beat him until he fell down, and she stormed out of the ring and said she couldn't work with me and that I should go work with Linda Tellington or this Olympian up the road named Landon Gray, but she was through. And even after all that happened, if she hadn't said that, I'm not sure I would have done anything except call her up and beg her to come back, because I myself was so uneducated. And one of the things T-Touch has done for me and countless other pet lovers is help them see their pets as the wonderful beings that they are, that are trying their hardest to do what we want them to do. Horses are herd animals, dogs are pack animals, cats live in prides. Animals want to cooperate with us. They are not belligerent, stupid, and trying to give us a bad day. We're the ones doing that to them, often. So luckily, again, I had this instructor furious and make this not really a suggestion. It was more of a frustrating rant to her. And my ex-husband at the time, who was my husband, said, all right, let's call those people and get some lessons then. He was very supportive of my riding career. Even though he didn't know a lot about riding, his mother had been a rider, his father was a rider, he came from a very horsey family, and so he understood the importance of riding lessons, even though he didn't understand the exact kind of things I wanted to learn that I wasn't learning. And I was the riding director at the school, so it was sort of a job enrichment thing. And I went off to New Hampshire a couple of days, maybe weeks later, and my poor husband, he was teaching my 4 classes at the prep school, his 4 classes, and coaching a sport and running the dorm all by himself. And at a prep school, you are 24/7. So those extra classes for a week, maybe it was even 10 days or 2 weeks that he took on for me. I mean, you could not pay anybody enough money to do that job. So that was another blessing. And I went up there and they were having this long training with, it was an advanced T-Touch class as well as a T-Touch riding class, which Linda doesn't do anymore, but we were really focusing on riding for many days. And she had adapted a lot of training techniques from cavalry training and riding that she had learned from her husband, Wentworth Tellington. And that was part of what we were doing in the riding classes. And at that one class, I was very fortunate to be enrolled with many people that have become prominent, well-known horse people and animal trainers. And I'll talk about that in a second. But the most important thing was meeting Linda, and also a woman named Alexandra Kurland, who is now a really world-renowned clicker training person for horses and dogs. Oh, not so much dogs as horses, but she teaches classes all over the country. She had worked with me privately for weeks prior to this training and weeks after that training, a year or more. She had ridden with someone named Bettina Drummond, who actually has a Breyer horse made of one of her horses. She happened to be somewhat in my area. Alexandra had ridden with her for a number of years. Bettina has Iberian horses. They're very much like Morgans. Anything that Alexandra learned training those horses applied quickly to my Morgans. And it was a lucky thing. And I went off to this training, and Linda, from the start, and she was a different person then than she is now. Her sister Robin was there, and you know, Robin was considered, quote, the nice one, and Linda was kind of the mean one, because like my trainer Linda cared so much about horses that she had a hard time finding patients for people that were uneducated and doing the wrong things, and so she got really frustrated. Of course, she's not like that at all anymore. She's so patient and loving, and her classes are just such an experience of community and relationship, and with the animals and the people in the room, and compassion for people who are doing things that we might not agree with at the start of the class. So, but she brought that to that class for me with my horse in a way that no trainer on earth really ever could have. And we gradually became friends over the course of my now over 50 trainings I've had directly with Linda Tellington, and many other week-long trainings with her sister Robin and Edie Jane and many of the other people that teach for them. I now teach for them and travel around doing that, teaching the work for dogs and horses and people. And I've brought a lot of the work for humans into healthcare settings, and I actually saved a guy who was coding at my job at a veterans hospital thanks to T-Touch and what I had learned from Linda. So this work is profound and useful and amazing. And when my sister suggested, when Facebook Live became a thing, that I do Facebook Live, I thought, you know what? It's worth doing it just to put T-Touch into the world. So after I'd done maybe 20 episodes like this, I put in, you know, every single thing I knew about T-Touch and then some for the first like 20 to 70 episodes of Conversations with a Corgi, so that there is instruction out there. Now, since then, Linda, her sister, other advanced practitioners have put lots of videos. If you Google, you know, lying leopard T-Touch, you will probably find 10 videos of people, including Linda, showing you how to do it. But I felt like it was really important to do like a consecutive thing, starting from the beginning and going straight through, that was kind of linear for people to look at after they may have taken a class, or if they're interested in taking a class, or if they're interested in learning this work. I've had some people in foreign countries where we don't teach very often look at all the videos. and really be grateful that they're sequenced the way they are. And of course, you can then watch me do it and watch Linda do it and hear from Robin and Debbie Potts and some other great people. But it was really important to me to keep T-Touch in the world in that way. So even then, it's still affecting my life. I still work with Linda for a week every year in Maryland. When she comes to a dog training center in Rockville that my friend Pam teaches at occasionally. And it has been a great pleasure to work with Linda there indoors, not out carrying poles with horses in the cold. And she is looking to do a few more kinds of clinics on the East Coast because she's been very popular in Germany and a little bit more popular in California. And we've had her here. I've hosted her here for a whole series of horse trainings on multiple locations. And we're looking to have some more of those in this area, and maybe that connected with a dog workshop in this area, because I do have some dog facilities where they would be happy to host her and not cry at all about having to cancel their own classes in order to host us. Because, you know, at a dog training center, they make money by running classes round the clock. And if somebody comes in and kicks everybody out for a week, it's really a big loss financially. You lose the continuity with your clients. It's a big commitment. Some places we offer like a discount to the people that would be in the training classes to come to our classes and watch or participate. So anyway, knowing Linda has really been life-changing. It inspired my book. It inspired my TED Talk, which is about my book, and a way of looking at animals that I think is really unique. We've got all this stuff about positive training and different approaches with horses, natural, organic, whatever. But you know what? A lot of them have borrowed things from Linda or been inspired by Linda. And at that first training I was at, we had Alexandra Curlin, the clicker training woman. We had Peggy Cummings, who does connected riding, which she adapted from insights she had from T-Touch and centered riding. We had Edie Jane was there, who has now become one of the people that travels the world teaching Tellington work. There were some women from Colorado who actually started a farm that was just a T-Touch center and took in horses for training. These ladies were not riders. They were not riders, but they were really good with horses, and they worked well together, and they helped a lot of horses. I'm trying to think who else was in that class. You know, Wendy Murdoch, who people now know for her work with biomechanics and riding, because she's always had that fascination with physics and mechanics of riding, as have I, and we met there, and it's been quite an experience knowing her. And there was a wonderful woman who was a coach to the Austrian Olympic team, who was in some of those early trainings. And boy, her insights into dressage and her compassionate, gentle way of training and grooming affected me for the rest of my life and how I relate to animals. And that's the magic of Linda. She brings together like-minded people, and it is just such an experience to be in a class with her. And I try always to reproduce that in the classes I teach about T-Touch for dogs, people, and horses. Right, Tristan? You haven't been to too many horse classes, just a couple. And Linda, you know, she's known every one of my Corgis. She knew both of my horses. In fact, when Burgers, my horse, died in 2008, she was there doing a clinic in June, and he died in the middle of July. So one of his last experiences in a group of horses was being what we call a teacher during that training. And, you know, he had been in T-Touch trainings from like age 7 until age 31. And we had some beginner people trying to lead him on the offside, which for a horse person can be a really big transition. And it's very hard to coordinate your hands and holding this whip we call a wand. And people would be futzing with their ropes and things, and he would just walk away. Just to show them, you know, hey, you're not paying attention to me. I'm just going to go over here and eat some hay out of the corner. and you can figure out how to hold me later. And, you know, that's what makes him a teacher horse. Some of the other horses are so trained, you know, like drilled into their heads, don't move, that they just stand there. But it's hard to learn on a horse like that. You need one that does what we call the dance with you. Which is how my book got Dances of the Heart as the title, because you really are working as partners with your horses and with your dogs. And having, all of us have taken a dog walk one day where you just felt so connected with your dog. You saw the little ears prick up at a deer in the woods that you would never have seen. The other day I was walking Tristan and he turned to the side and I heard something big coming through the snow and I'm like, oh my God, what is it? And it was a dog. It was a big white dog with black ears that I haven't seen. He was wearing one of those electric fence collars. I don't know where he came from, but he ran out of the woods, ran up to us, watched us, and ran away. And I wouldn't have even known he was coming if it weren't for Tristan. He was a very stealthy dog until he got about 6 feet from us. So these are the moments that you remember with your pets, and Linda has been a part of many, many, many of those for me and my animals, and I am very, very grateful to her. And so today, when I finish this, I want to do a heart hug in Linda's honor, but I also want anyone that's watching to send their intentions or do a heart hug and send some thoughts of good wishes and love and compassion and strength and courage to the people in Australia working so hard to save the wildlife there. I mean, it's just unbelievable devastation of wildlife in Australia. So to do a heart hug T-touch, you imagine the face of a clock on your chest over your heart. 6 is down here, 12 is up here, 9's on one side, 3 is on the other. You're going to make a circle and a quarter starting at the 6, going around the clock and back to the 9. And you can go right or left, whatever way works for you today, because it's not always the same. You take a deep breath in and make that circle as you imagine happiness and security for all those animals and gratitude for Linda for bringing us the heart hug and a way to see animals that really makes a profound change in people's lives. And Jim and James, I mean, you're up in Maine. You're not that far from me. I'm happy to come up there and do a clinic if you have enough people to cover the expense of me driving up there and staying somewhere. And we can work with dogs. That would be great. We need a big room and a bunch of dogs. It's pretty much all that's required for teaching a dog T-touch class. It would probably be a one-day one because I would be new in your area. If you have a dog daycare or training center in your area, it's pretty easy to grab them on a Saturday or something if they're not having some other event. So thanks for joining us today for my little talk about my relationship with Linda Tellington. I think I met her in 1986, so that means I've known her 34 years. But I'm happy to say that I've had over 50 trainings with her, which are all weeks long. And so that means I've spent roughly a year of my life directly with her, which is a treasure, really a treasure. She's an amazing person. Right, Tristan? He says yes. She looks at very small signals coming from animals, and we call that listening to them. You know, you hear all this stuff about horse whisperers. Linda says you want to listen to the whispers of the animals. And she's been saying that for a long time. Other trainers are starting to say that kind of thing. But really, what are your animals telling us? That's what we're trying to do. That's what we've been trying to do since time immemorial. Humans forever want to know what is going on in our animals because they know a lot of things we don't know. Right, Tristan? Where the treats are. So I think that I will not be back until probably next Friday. I have a pretty busy weekend. I may try to do something on Saturday or Sunday, but I doubt it. And with the computer situation, I won't be able to post it. And I've got my other educator job 3 days next week. So it'll probably be next Friday when I see you guys again. So have a great week. Everybody enjoy the warm weather on the East Coast and stay warm in the cold weather in the central part of the country and the wet weather in the south. Get your umbrellas and boots for sure. All right, we'll see you. Everybody have a great day. Whoa.